Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Winslow, and that is Carlos, and this is the Creative Whole Podcast. That's right. So, welcome back to another episode of the Creative Whole Podcast. Thank you. We are glad that you guys are here.
We are glad you're here. What's up, everybody?
Hope everybody's having a beautiful night. A little rainy where I'm at, but we're okay. So thanks for coming along with us on this journey through the book of The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. So pretty much what we'll do right now is we're going to go through a quick recap of what we did last week. And last week we discussed key idea number 4. Trying to do everything and be everywhere is unrealistic and is making us exhausted. So one of the key things was FOMO, the fear of missing out. So FOMO is a feeling of anxiety and apprehension that one might miss out on a rewarding experience, social event, or opportunity that others are experiencing. Also, human limitations can be seen as a gift from God in several ways, rather than as a source of FOMO. Good old FOMO. Lastly, so instead of fearing our limitations and feeling left out, we can embrace them as part of God's design for our lives and use them as opportunities to grow closer to Him and to others. So pretty much relationships. So now we're going to get into this week. We are talking about key idea number 5. To have meaningful, unhurried spiritual lives, we need to emulate Jesus's lifestyle. So let's get started. You know what I'm saying, Carlos?
Yep. What's up, everybody?
I know. Don't mind him. He's a little salty. Maybe sour. Maybe both.
I'm very salty. I just have to make a public confession. I am very salty right now, and you can probably tell by the way I sound because I do not have a microphone, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. But I'm here with the good support of my brother, with the hard R on that, brother.
And he's not talking about me. There's somebody at his house right now. I'm just, or is it me? Are you talking about me?
It's always been, bro. It's always been.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am feeling a little salty. Winslow's making fun of me, making me laugh, and getting me back in good spirits. And my wife was side eyeing me because she's like, "Be cool, be cool." And I'm like, "All right, I'm being cool."
Cool, not cool. Cool.
Be cool, man.
And you're like,
cool.
And
Chill,
you're like,
man.
Bet.
Yeah, that was when he told me to throw my microphone outside in the rain. I was like, yeah, about.
Should have. Would have been fun for me.
But I already told my wife, so I just got to get a new microphone. That's pretty easy.
That's right. A couple $100, $300-400. We good.
$400. That's it. On the credit card.
Who are you looking at?
Nobody.
So, the Bible is not only a book of moral teachings. What is the Bible also, Carlos?
It is also a biography. Although we rarely think of it like that, it gives us a detailed account of what Jesus' life was like day to day, what he did and said, and how he practiced his faith.
Do you have any interesting facts?
What a softball pitch that was. Interesting fact is Jesus. So here's an interesting fact. I put a couple interesting facts here. So Jesus' life and teachings continue to be studied and debated by scholars and theologians, despite the fact that he never wrote a word himself. I thought that was interesting. Another interesting fact. Despite not publishing anything, Jesus' message has spread to every corner of the globe, making him one of the most impactful figures in human history. And if Jesus were alive today,
didn't they say that the Bible is like the most sold book?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think like Rick Warren's like Purpose Driven Life is right behind it or something.
Dang.
Yeah, it's pretty That is.
Okay. That would be my
But
tagline on my social media.
so if Jesus were alive today, he might be considered a social media influencer, right? But the thing about him is he never had to post. He wouldn't have had to post anything, and he would have been a huge influencer.
It would just spread
Yeah,
organically.
organically. So check this out. Even if you're not a person of faith, or you even find yourself being anti-religious, that's all right. You have to admit that the life of Jesus can't be ignored for long. Being where we live, it's kind of like churches everywhere, things like that. It's our whole calendar, the way it's broken up. It's all Jesus
What's
is
on our
definitely
money?
it's on our money, all that. So it's even if it's you're not a person of faith, it's just you can't help but get around the fact that Jesus made a huge impact uh, on this thing called life, and no one can really get away from that reality. So long before the concept of mindfulness became trendy, Jesus was showing us how to be in the moment and really engage with life. So,
So
Winslow, what does it mean to be mindful? What is mindfulness? What's your understanding of it? Because that's what John Mark
to
Comer uh, says.
put, yeah. Um, my whole thing would be about being aware. That's what it would start off with, is being aware. Um, but the hard part would be being aware of the moment, just because my mind likes to race. And we've talked about this many of times, which is I just like to think and think and think and think. So, like, I would almost say like mindfulness and being aware are kind of the same thing. But I think it's maybe different tiers. To me, mindfulness would be more of a like an actualization, like spirituality type of thing. Aware is like in the practical sense, I guess. That's what I
Okay.
think. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, mindfulness is a practice of being present in the moment. So winner, winner, chicken dinner. You got that right.
Thank you.
Observing thoughts and feelings without judgment and cultivating a state of calm awareness. Okay. And so, like, it's real big in the therapeutic world, even in the addiction world of drug treatment and things of that nature, where they try to teach mindfulness, which are techniques. Okay. And so, modern mindfulness is what today is known as mindfulness is a practice, and it's often secular in nature. And secular just means non-religious. Okay, so while Jesus's spiritual practices, which this book is revolving around, while Jesus's spiritual practices were grounded in a specific religious tradition, because Jesus was a Jew, right? So Jesus's teachings focused on developing a relationship with God and following God's will, while mindfulness is more focused on personal well-being and inner peace. So, are they necessarily opposed to each other, or can they be complementary? Um, well, Jesus's practice often involved prayer, fasting, and other forms of devotion, while mindfulness is typically practiced through meditation and other secular techniques. And while mindfulness can be compatible with various religious traditions, it is not necessarily tied to any specific faith or set of beliefs. And the reason that these little points are in here is because it's just a education. Because I think it can be real easy to say, well, before mindfulness was trendy, Jesus was doing it, but it wasn't exactly the same as what it is today. Um, Even though Jesus was in the moment and not living a hurried lifestyle, and so there's a lot of similarities with what would be known as the results of mindfulness, but I don't think he was practicing mindfulness how it is today. So both practices share some similarities in terms of their focus on present moment awareness and non-judgmental acceptance.
So I think sometimes the non-judgmental acceptance can be a little much. Um, because I always try to say that I'm not judging, but I think I am probably low key judging. Um, but I have heard, and I'm not justifying any of my judgment on or non-judgment on anybody. But I remember, I think it was
Sounds like a Whopper
Charles
coming.
Stan. I think it was Charles Stanley, but he was kind of going into the thing of that he's not judging. What he's doing is, what was it? He's just lining it up with the Bible. So it's not necessarily his point of view
So, so the
that
Bible,
he's judging. It's a biblical point of view, which I
sure.
guess it's still kind of judging, but I think what he's saying is that it's more biblically sound and of good judgment rather than of the flesh, because I'll probably judge somebody, I don't know, let's say like somebody doesn't have a mic or something and they get all salty, and I might be judging them, calling them salty or sour or something like that. That's never happened. That's just something I just came up with right now.
Whoa.
So I'm going to judge somebody on
So
that.
no, so with the non-judgmental acceptance, I think another thing to keep in mind when it comes to how that goes along with mindfulness is you're supposed to observe, right? Without any judgment, and even your own thoughts. Like, do not judge anything. Just allow yourself to be, right? And whatever happens, like, don't get caught up in the judging. It's not that you suspend your beliefs or morality, but you're not allowing yourself to become like centered, I guess, and get into
Like
that place.
internalize.
Yeah, like internalize. So basically, it's like leave yourself alone. Like, just let your thoughts be, and like once you stop judging your own thoughts and just allow them to be, then you'll come to a place where they kind of like stop, where they relax. But we use a lot of energy often because like I shouldn't have thought that. I shouldn't think like this. I shouldn't do that, right? And I'm not saying like be crazy and stuff, but just in general, like going back into the hurried mindset, you know, where your gears are turning really fast. And so it's just slowing down and not trying to make your gears stop so fast, and just slowing down,
Slowing
not
down those
judging,
cogs.
slowing down the cogs. Definitely.
And I think the big word that you just said is acceptance.
Yeah.
Because with all that stuff like going on in your mind, just accept it. Almost, it is what it is. And accept it for what it is. Don't internalize it. I notice myself internalizing things like sometimes quite a bit. Um, but I just have to learn how to trust in God's word. And that's where I think a lot of times it goes back to trusting in the word
Yeah. I think too
and
another thing.
meditation. And
Yeah. I think another thing to keep in mind is that we are not our thoughts. And I think we are our thoughts. And we're
mhm.
not. I heard of something good. I gotta share it. And because I put it on my little Facebook post, and it was just, yeah, it was good. So basically it was a quote, and it said, um, oftentimes the devil hides in the thoughts that we think are our own. I was like,
Mm.
fancy. Hmm.
So, because a lot of times we think we are what our thoughts are telling us, which that could
Yeah.
be like in a personal way, that could be in a situation type of thing. I don't know if you remembered, but do you remember like when I would get caught up in certain situations and I would internalize things? Do you remember what you would tell me?
Remind me.
So you would tell me to change the story
Oh,
because
yes.
I would get caught up in that story and then I would internalize it and then it makes me feel a certain type of way. And then you used to tell me to change the story. And I'm
Yep.
like,
Yep.
okay, I'm gonna change
Yep.
that story then.
Change the channel.
Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But
It's worth a shot, huh?
No, but the idea of changing my story is good. It's just the way my mind works. That cog doesn't go slow. There's like 18,000 different cogs and they're going at like at 72 million RPMs. So it makes it a little
They're
bit
like,
harder.
let me keep my story.
It's like it's the devil saying good luck. Good luck. And then that's when I have to say, Lord, take it. And
Later's
just
for
give
the
it to him.
devil.
Yeah.
Later's for the
Peace.
devil.
Peace.
All right. So yeah, peace for real, right? So the difference between the practices of Jesus and modern day mindfulness is the ways in which they are practiced, and their underlying goals and motivations are often quite different. And so basically the bottom line is the core difference lies in a person's worldview, what they believe about the world. The world's origin, the meaning of life, what morality is, and what they believe happens after death. So yeah, that's getting all philosophical and deep and all that good stuff. But basically, it's important to know for an educational point that Jesus wasn't practicing modern day mindfulness. So yeah, it
I
was
like how you
faith.
put so yeah.
Yeah. Go on, Winslow.
All right. So stories from the Bible reveal that Jesus was never ever in a hurry. Although he always had a lot to do, he always took his time. So one of the examples would be in one story, a man named Jairus. Is that what it
Jairus.
is?
Yeah.
Jairus. Jairus begs Jesus to come and heal his
Peace.
daughter, whose life is in danger. So Jesus goes with him, but on his way is interrupted by a woman who is chronically ill and needs help. And at this time, Jesus is fully present and attentive to her and calmly helps her before carrying on his way to attend Jairus' daughter. Now, just within those two things, like, so he's on his way to go heal one person, Jairus' daughter. And within that time, he's not like, okay, well, I need to hurry up and go. I need to hurry up and go. Like, she's in dire need. I need to go help her. I need to go help her. He's just kind of going. And he, in his way, it's always slowed down. He's just almost just like chilling, strolling, going to Jairus' daughter. And on that way is when he pretty much is going to heal somebody else. Like, so at the same time, like maybe
Are you
we won't
familiar with
do,
that story?
is it the one
The
that,
woman with the issue of blood?
yeah,
Yeah.
the weird thing. So side note, so the weird thing that I heard a couple days ago is within this. So I don't know if it was Jairus's daughter, but she was the one that was bleeding for like 12 years,
Well, Jairus'
or is she
daughter was a
12?
12-year-old girl.
12
She's
year
a
old.
12-year-old.
But then the one that touched his cloak, or
Hem
what do they call it?
of his garment.
Yeah, his part of his garment.
Mhm.
She was bleeding for 12 years.
Yep. 12 and 12.
Yeah, and I just heard about. I put two and two together. Like I was listening to a podcast. I think, who was it? Michael Todd, maybe, from Transformation Church. But I was listening to him, and he brought it up, and I was all, huh, wow.
Bet you I had him. He had a good mic, huh?
He probably did. He
Yeah.
probably definitely did work. That's for sure. But
Salty and sour.
Jesus' life is busy, but he is relaxed. Hurry or stress have no place in his schedule, and neither should it have any place in our schedule either.
And
So
I
now
think
that,
even just
or,
going like there with Jesus going to that situation, you see he is being calm and being cool about it. And it reminds me because he was interrupted. He was on his way to do something. He was interrupted. How do you do when you're interrupted? I don't always like being
kind of like
interrupted.
how they talk about when you're going out the door and you're in a rush and you're getting snappy and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
That's how I get a little snappy.
yeah, a little snappy or yeah, whatever the case may be. But I heard something that always stuck with me. It's that sometimes those disruptions are God's invitations to slow down and to go another direction for that time. And so like that kind of helped
That
me
makes
to
sense.
think about it like God's will, like if I'm being interrupted or if some plan doesn't work out. Like they're actually talking about that at work this morning or yesterday morning. But like they're saying basically like when your plans don't work out, that's the plan of God. Sometimes, and it's all right. Just flow with it.
So it's almost like sometimes when I'm in a rush. Well, I'm always in a rush when I'm driving, just to get nowhere, but always in a rush. But that's how I feel sometimes, where like, because sometimes there are those certain moments where there's two cars um that are just far enough apart where even if you were to try to get in the other lane, like you can't pass because both the cars are like they're just apart in enough way
Even
where I can't do it. And so then I think in my head, like, okay, Lord, like maybe I'm just going to stay here. Like, I don't know if there's like an accident that happened or it's going to happen or something else is going to happen. Like, so it's almost like that divine intervention. Now, is it like that every single time? I don't know. But what I'm willing
I
to
think
tell
the
you,
same way though.
but what I'm
I
willing
do.
to tell you is I'm not willing to take that chance. You know what I mean? Like, and okay, let's say that I didn't miss an accident that I could have been involved with. So what? Like, it takes like 45 more seconds. Like, am I willing to maybe possibly get in a car accident over 45 seconds? No,
Or get a
I'm not.
ticket.
Yeah, I don't need no more of those. So, another example in the Gospel of John, when Jesus learns that his friend Lazarus has died, he deliberately waits several days before going to see him. Now, when he finally arrives, Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. Um, Lazarus was Mary's.
Brother.
Okay,
And
just seeing
Jesus
if I
is
had
good
my
friend.
facts. Let's make sure I have my facts right. So, although his delay causes confusion and frustration among his disciples and Lazarus' sisters, Jesus explained that his timing is intentional. So, I can only imagine like what the disciples, Lazarus' sisters are like thinking, like he just passed, or he's gonna pass, or whatever the case may be. Like, hurry up, like go, like you need to hurry up and do it. But Jesus is like, well, everything's intentional, which I think that is one of the things with like control. Like you can't control everything. And especially like reading the word, meditating on the word, like you have to know that everything is set for a reason, or set there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus used Lazarus's death as an opportunity for God's glory to be revealed. And as the story goes, Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead to teach them to have faith in him. Which that would definitely be a faith builder. Um, just because like after 4 days, like you're like, no way. Like he's already been, he's
It's a
probably
wrap.
already, yeah, he's done for, and all of a sudden he's like, wait, calm down, just just sit. Like I know what I'm doing, and that's just one of those things. Like slow it down
Yep.
without getting into our own thoughts, because it's within our own thoughts. Well, like you said, like earlier, like that's the devil's playground too. Like, so a lot of the thoughts that we have are probably not even not even close to what it is. So
And it
overall,
was
the Bible portray. Yep. So overall, the Bible portrays Jesus as a deliberate and intentional figure who prioritized relationships, compassion, and God's will over efficiency or busyness. And I think that's a big thing, is prioritizing. And I think that is definitely a good start. Relationships. We always talk about relationships, and that could be with a significant other, my fellow brother right here, fellow sister, real family, fake family, whoever. Like I think relationships should be like the top priority, and definitely having compassion, I would say, just for
yeah.
people in general. And
I think
and I
that's just
think
a oh, go
go
ahead.
on, no, go on.
It's just a completely different mindset, because people are often so task oriented, like if I had been Jesus on my way to go save, someone who's like, hey, my daughter needs your help. She's dying. I'm going to be so focused on getting there,
Tunnel vision.
that, yeah, tunnel vision. And so, like, someone else comes tugging on my side, like, oh, I need your help. I'm like,
Mm-mm.
I'm sorry, I don't have time. Try to be nice, but keep it pushing, right? I got an emergency here, but Jesus didn't, and it's like, I really try to slow down and get like inside of his mind, because he operated from a completely different mindset of faith and trusting in God, and I think ultimately that's what causes so much hurry in my life, is when I'm lacking in faith, or I think I'm the answer, or I'm the, so to speak, the savior of the moment, and I got to get it. I have to do it, and it has to be done, or else. And then fear kicks in, and the what ifs kick in, you know, um,
Anxieties.
and the anxieties, and so like I would have, if I was Jesus, I would have been thinking like, you know, oh my gosh, man, this little girl's dad, Jairus, is going to be so upset with me because I'm on his way to help his daughter, and I'm totally sitting here helping somebody else. And that the maybe I'd be tempted to let the people pleaser inside of me to, create that internal conflict, right? Where I'm like,
Hmm.
who do I help? I care about both. Who do I help? Right?
And it's
What
almost
do you?
accepting the situation as it is.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I think we internalize the priority of it in the sense of this little girl is dying. Like and for the most part, like we don't know what's going on with the one that touched the garment. And so we're like, oh well, you're in a sense, like maybe in our heads, like we're thinking like, oh well, you're at least out here right now. So you're not as bad. So you're almost doing like a triage. Like you're not as
Yeah,
bad as this one over here. So I'm gonna go to this one first. And then maybe I might come back this way. But I can't
yeah,
promise you. But it's more so just like stopping. And this just like in a general sense, like yes, Jesus was doing miracles
yeah,
like that. But ours could just be like words of encouragement for somebody. Like maybe they're gonna go and jump off a building or something. Like we don't know. Like so it's just like having building those relationships with compassion. And I think
yeah.
compassion kind of goes into relationships. I think having compassion builds the relationship stronger. Compassion, empathy, and all those things, I think builds a relationship stronger.
I think, I remember one time I was at work. I was working at the in Selma at a paper plant, and I remember I was thinking. I said, God values, because I was thinking about like prayer and the way God works. I'm like thinking about what God cares about, because everyone has a reason or a rationale why they behave the way they do. And I'm like, God values relationship more than efficiency, because if it was all about efficiency, things would just be like that. But God lets things play out. God lets things, lag or fall behind, um, because ultimately, He wants to slow down so He can be with people in the moments, even in the distress. He cares more about the relationship. And I think that even me and you, like the way we, even our work habits and the way we are, it's like, yeah, we'll get our jobs done for sure, but we will definitely probably push the line a little bit when it comes to if someone needs us or someone needs to talk. It's like we will
Eh.
juggle, you know, and it's like we're having like counseling sessions or something on the side, or like, encouraging somebody or checking up on somebody, because I think that's just our hearts, and it's like
Mhm.
I can't ignore pain. I mean, I understand I got responsibilities, things to do, but I can't. And even if like I have to go, I will come back, talk to that person, and be like, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I did see this and I cared and this and that, and I had to do this, but I'm back here right now." You know? because I guess the main thing is I want people to know that they matter.
Yes, and I think sometimes like task a lot of times when I think task driven, um so all this that I'm gonna say right now, pretty much the end thing is I'm in a rush. But I guess I feel sometimes I'm willing to die on some things, and this is one, which was like task oriented things for me would be like a check on a work schedule. Like, oh, I need to do this paperwork and do that paperwork, and I need to fill this out. I need to go to a training that I'm probably not going to learn anything. But if a one of my coworkers or a friend or somebody reaches out, like I'm more likely to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna pause this task over here, and I'm gonna go see what they need, especially if it's like a dire need. I'm gonna go see what they need because I hold. So, like I said, task for me would be like a generalized, like a process of tedious work. Relationships, I just hold a lot higher than these goal oriented tasks for, we'll just say for work. And that's why, like, for relationships, I just hold it like a lot closer to my heart. And that's one of the reasons why, like, we started like this podcast is because it all comes back down. I've said this many of times. You've said it is relationships and community because we want to be there for people. We don't want to be there for tasks. We want to be there for people. And I think being there for people, and I've said I think I said this last week or something, maybe the week before, but being there for people, doing like a good deed, I will stop almost like whatever I'm doing just to do it. Just because like first of all, I know that they need the help, or I'm assuming that they need the help. And then the other thing is because twofold is it kind of makes me it makes me feel like I'm doing something and it makes me feel good. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and I think that comes down to like the whole thing of relationships and having that compassion.
Yeah, and definitely, I think at the end of it all, or the bottom line is, it's which side do you choose to err on? If you have to choose, and if something's going to suffer, I'd rather a task suffer than a person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That is in need of some attention or some help, or they need to conversate, or whatever the case may be. Because, in all actuality, I know how a lot of business stuff happens or whatever. And it's like, work is never done.
No,
It's never done. There's always something to
good
do.
luck.
And yeah, there's timelines and things of that nature. And so yeah, you have to prioritize rightly. But there's always some type of workaround. And so if it has to do with someone is in need, a relationship, I definitely like what Jesus. I like his style. You know what I mean? Slow down and be with the people, and see how they're doing.
Yep. So similarly, there are other instances in the Bible where Jesus takes his time to minister to individuals of groups or groups of people, even if it means delaying his own plans and inconveniencing himself. And that is definitely one of those things where I would definitely want to emulate Jesus, like delaying my own plans, and just pretty much inconveniencing myself. Sometimes that's a little hard, um, because I feel if I do it too much, that I do get a little snappish. I don't want to get snappish on like on no person because it all comes back down to like relationships and like what we're doing. So while he had many responsibilities and tasks to attend to, he made a point of taking his time and being present with those he encountered, even if it meant deviating from his plans or expectations. And it kind of goes back to Jairus's daughter and the lady that touched his garment.
Hmm.
Like he was supposed to like tunnel vision. I'm gonna go to Jairus's daughter. I'm gonna heal her because she's not dead. She's just resting. And there's this girl back here that she has an ailment too, but you know what? I'm going to slow it down and I'm going to do this over here real quick and then I'll continue on my way. Like just accept, pretty much like going to, even though earlier you were talking about like non-judgmental acceptance, but this just accepting the situation and being okay with the situation, like not making too much into it. You're just taking whatever it is and you're slowing yourself down so you won't be in that hurry, because if you're in a hurry, then maybe the things that you need to do aren't going to be done.
Yeah, and I think that even goes back down to, I know we talked about FOMO, fear of missing out. It's the same type of thinking that goes into FOMO, right? Is like if you don't slow down, a lot of times there's those little fears, those little micro fears, that maybe you're not fully conscious of, but they're kind of like in your heart that creates the anxiety. Like, and sometimes that may come with like people pleasing. So I'm even thinking about like with Lazarus, right? When he was dead, they called for him. He was going to Lazarus, and he waited, right? And obviously, this is Jesus. He knew what he was doing. I mean, he knew he was going to raise him from the dead. So, kind of a unique story. But I'm still thinking of the fact that he had to be willing to be misunderstood, and he had to be willing to do what he knew God wanted him to do, right? And not allow the pressure of people to dictate his decision making. And he followed what he believed was right.
I mean, and it comes down to like what you believe is right. And a lot of times, hopefully, it does line up with the word. Um, yeah, I mean, hopefully, it lines up with the word, and that, because doing the right thing is always going to be the right
The
thing,
right.
like no matter what. So Jesus also took time out for himself, making sure to recharge in between engagements, but he wasn't a loner. So pretty much every chance that he got, he had long dinners with friends, drinking wine, and talking about what really matters in life. He had times for these dinners because he wasn't running around trying to amass more money or buy a bigger house or any of the things that modern social influencers maybe might do. But Jesus lived simply, taking only what he really needed and prioritizing what really mattered. So you may be thinking that that's nice for Jesus. He can afford to disappear to pray or hang out with friends all day because he lived before modern technology and he didn't have a 9 to 5 with kids, which
You ever thought
mine's
that?
more mine's more so 8:30 to 5. So not 9 to 5, but I do have kids. Have I ever thought about that?
Well,
Um,
people talk about like live more like Jesus, or sometimes people talk about live like how they lived in the Bible. And it's like I get what they're saying, but it's a completely different context now. Just it's a different world we live in.
and I think a lot of times it does always come down to like context. It's always the context.
Hmm.
So those are valid points. There are fundamental ways in which our lives differ from that of Jesus,
Hey,
which, yeah, what we just kind of said. Um, and I do feel that context is key to a lot of things. Even even when this kind of going off topic, I guess, but even when like somebody will quote a scripture, um, but then they don't use the two scriptures before that's telling them something maybe they don't want to hear, but they're just going to use the one that glorifies like
it's
whatever the case may be. It's like, well, once you read the two things before that or the two scriptures before that, that's telling that you need to do what God is telling you to do, and then He's going to afford this scripture right here.
yep.
So, however, many of his practices are adaptable, even in these frenetic modern times. So, like one big thing, just because of the title, to have a meaningful, unhurried life, we should emulate one person. It's to me, it's definitely it comes down to living that slow life, um, making almost making time for everything, but not scheduling anything. Does that make sense? So making time for everything, like you're doing everything, just like going back to the Jairus's daughter and then the other lady, like in a sense, you're doing everything, but you're not scheduling it. Like, oh, from to one, I'm going to be going on this journey to Jairus's daughter, and I'm going to, in a sense, heal her, um, because, well, then you're not going to be able to have time to do the, I guess, the slowdown of your pace in order to heal somebody else that's right behind you.
Okay, so Winslow,
What?
I feel this little devil coming up right here, and he's
Uh
saying, "So, what am I hearing you saying that we should not have schedules? Should we not um, focus on executing tasks? There are things to be done. There are responsibilities that we must have. So, should we not have a schedule? Should we not make plans? Should we just, basically be, somewhat of a just a free flowing, I don't know. I can't think of any better word, but maybe
no,
like a
no,
just
no,
a
no.
free flowing,
I get it.
just go with the flow.
I get it. So not having like no, I don't know if this is going to make sense to you, but how I feel is yes, that you should have somewhat of a time management system, but at the same time, kind of what we were talking about earlier is, and this doesn't go with the non-judgmental thing, but it comes down to acceptance. So accept things for what they are at that time. So going back to the same example, you're going on your way to go heal a 12-year-old girl. Somebody walks up behind you, even though it's not on your schedule, but accept the things that could be valuable for that person. And
Yeah.
I think still things come back down to relationships, being compassionate. Now, if you're
Mhm.
telling me like, oh, well, I have a meeting that I have to attend, but 99.9% of them actually don't even do anything for me, then, well, even there could be something that does do something for me. But if it does come down to like helping somebody, then I will pump the brakes a little bit and I will be able to adapt to that, even though towards the end we might be doing that juggling thing. But sometimes I am okay with doing the whole juggling thing. Make
Yep.
sense? That's right.
Makes sense.
Sometimes it makes sense. Not all the time, just sometimes. So in our future episodes, you'll learn about 4 simple practices inspired by Jesus' way of life, which can transform your relationships at time and allow you to prioritize what really matters. But we don't want to leave you hanging. So here's a sneak peek into what we'll be talking about in the upcoming weeks. So key idea number 6 would be make sure to create time for silence and solitude every day, which would be almost one of those things how we discussed earlier, to kind of recharge. I
Hmm.
would I would think. Key number 7: take a day off every week to rest and worship. Now, does that matter when? Not necessarily. Um, I guess some would say the Sabbath day to rest, because day 7, God just kind of hung out, did whatever. Then we go key number 8: by consuming less and sharing more, we'll have more time for the things that really matter. Key number 9 is to slow down your life and make it less efficient to attain more peace of mind. And I think sometimes with like being efficient, I think it comes down to being efficient can not all the time, but oftentimes lead to being hurried. And so what we're discussing within this book is the ruthless elimination of hurry. So we're trying to get away from that. And so
Yes.
that's why within this keep link right here, we're talking about like Jesus's lifestyle. Like he was definitely a busy person, but he still had this slow, like cool demeanor, cool pace of his walk, that he always had time for people,
Yeah.
because I mean, maybe with him because he knew um, certain things that maybe we don't know. But that's with us. For us, our meditate would be more so like in the Word, getting in the Word, for us to understand a little bit more on what's going on, things like that,
Mhm.
according to the Word, rather than making things up in our mind. Because a lot of times when we try to make things up in our mind, if there is a gap, typically what our mind does is we fill in that gap with whatever. And a lot of times it's
Not good.
probably not the smartest thing that we can do. Um,
Hmm. You
but
said
that's
it.
the the biggest thing that I hope you guys hear. And if you are getting some value, hopefully you could like and subscribe, um, so you could kind of see where this book, Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, is kind of going to. But the overall thing is emulating the one person, which is Jesus, slowing down, knowing that it's okay to step back and recharge a little bit, because us as humans, um, we get tired. So sometimes if we are tired, we're not giving our all. So by being able to recharge, we could get back on the, we'll say, grind, and focus on what matters most, which in general, I would say for Carlos and me would be relationships, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Good show, my man.
is there any last words of wisdom?
No, nothing really comes to my mind right now. I think this was a really good topic. I really enjoyed um, just talking about the relationships and slowing down, and basically like the heart attitude, you know, because it is really easy to get caught up. And I think, and we'll hit more on it probably on that key idea number 9. But it's like I'm the type of person, my mind would love to fill a calendar in and and try to like be efficient and like get it all packed in. Um, but it's not. It really turns into a form of trying to control your life, and you're not leaving any margin, you know, for whatever God may
Error,
want to do, or yeah, for error, but for whatever
more
God
so
wanted
what God wants you to
to
do.
do, or
Makes
for
sense.
some of those interruptions that may come. And so it's like I remember one time I had a boss, and he was very task oriented, but he would. It was interesting to hear this, and he said, because he was a Christian, he said, Carlos, some days, he goes, I understand we all got responsibilities to do, but some days it's good just to, yeah, like have like a soft structure. He goes, but just really leave it open to God and say, God, lead today. Whatever is going to come today, you lead it. Whatever interruptions you want to bring my way, bring them this way. Like, have your way, and let me
Accept
not
it.
be too caught up, and let me not be too caught up on, just executing on all these tasks. And I think that's a pretty cool practice.
I agree. So with that being said, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Creative Whole podcast. That is Carlos. This is Winslow, or I am Winslow. And I hope to see you guys next week, and maybe sometime here soon. Maybe we might do a live. So typically, if we were to do a live, it'll be on YouTube, and it'll be at 7 o'clock. And we will hopefully post some stuff on Facebook, to let you guys know if we're going to go live. So hopefully, we could see you guys come, leave some comments. We can have some discussion while we're doing this, and we're open to whatever you have to say, um, even if it's necessarily not a part of what we're discussing. But maybe you could GM us on Instagram, something like that, and we could kind of go from there. But just to let you guys know that we do love you and we do appreciate everything, um, from you guys. And also, if you guys do want a copy of the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, there will be an affiliate link that we do get like I don't know, 23 cents a commission or something. But I do want to let you guys know that it is through an affiliate link program. But that's definitely not the reason why we chose to have this book.
Nope.
So,
And
with that being said,
two, before we go, if you guys have like a certain platform that you guys frequent the most, and you want to let us know, like, hey, this is where we're at or whatever, we'll be happy to try different things because we just want to engage.
Discord, whatever
Yeah.
the case may be, we'll figure it out. We'll get on there, have some discussion, hopefully some deep discussion, maybe just regular banter, whatever it is. Me and Carlos will be there. So with that being said, peace.
Have a good night.
Have a great, blessed night, everybody. And this is Creative Hole, and we are signing out.